Left of the box. So let's maybe adjust these a little bit. Apparently, I am now anti-woke because a body part of mine is now a trend again. I no longer have to rely on my personality. Yes, right wing, I am no longer woke. Yeah, nothing woke about me. It's just wild. It's wild. It's like, oh my god, there was a white woman with double D boobies, and now wokeness is dead. I happen to be white, but not a woman, but yeah. Now I can win over, right-wing men without having to worry about my personality. But the reason why this kind of ties into some of the other things that I was going to talk about that I've kind of had on the docket was I see these one-off stories a lot about like women should be wearing this, women shouldn't be wearing that, or this is, you need to be modest this way, or you need to be modest that way, or body image, and you should do this and that. And it's like, okay, my boobs are not a trend, okay? I don't grow them on command. It's nothing that I had control over. It's just the way the genetics lined up in me. I happen to have or largely developed boobies. And they used to be much, much larger when I was very, very overweight. But all too often, aspects about women and people who present as female are made into commodities and trends and preferences of people, and all the pressure is put on those things that then gives those people power. For the sake of complexity and just kind of streamlining this, I'm just going to say women from this point on, but I also am including people like me, NBs who present female. This is nothing new, and we'll go over some of the different types that there is out there. And then, yeah, when this newest headline kind of came out there, I'm like, okay, so I can wrap this all up. So we'll start with Ask Aubrey. I follow her on Twitter and Blue Sky because I gawk in horror at some of the things that she posts. Like, these are actual people. I don't get it. I don't get how normal human relationships are a thing if this is what some of them have to put up with. But she says here, it has never been about modesty to these types of dudes. It was and is about control. And what is she talking about? So you can see here a person who is pregnant, showing off her pregnant belly, and she's covered head to toe with a hijab and everything. The response that this got from some people judging her on it in a way that I don't think a lot of people were necessarily expecting. So this person saying she is wrong showing all of this impermissible. She is literally showing the shape of her breasts and tummy, which is our prophet forbade. May Allah guide this degenerate hoe to Islam. Right image shows correcting clothing for a Muslim woman in Islam. This person saying, keep it to yourself. No need to expose yourself to the world. This message is not intended to offend you. Delete it for yourself at first. This totally goes against the rules of modesty that the Prophet and have taught us. Very pathetic to tweet your stomach like this vile woman with no modesty. Where's this woman's husband? How can a man allow his wife to post herself like this? Yeah, it has never been about modesty and always been about control. Because nothing is ever good enough. It doesn't matter how covered they are. Should they express themselves in the slightest way whatsoever, then they're a horrible, horrible person for it. They want to strip people of their personality, of their expression, of who they are, and force them into these roles that a lot of them don't want to be in. Some of them do like that type of role, a lot of them don't. And it is just, and always has been, about controlling what women wear, how they wear it, what they express, what they show, because the men can't control themselves. That should they see an ankle or a shoulder, they can't help themselves. Like, I was going to show a bit of this, but then it's a little bit too dark for what I want to go over now. But he's basically, this pastor here was saying, yeah, if women are dressed whores, then they kind of, if they get raped, I understand why. Like, oh well. So here it's like, yeah, if you dress like that and you get raped and I'm on the jury, he's going to go free because a man's a man, is what this guy had said. And now, if you even show the shape of your stomach and your breasts, then a man's a man, is pretty much what it is. Like, you can't show any aspect of your body, or else it's your fault if anything happens to you. And then there is this. So from the parody Danielle Smith account, far-right conservatism in Alberta is alive and well, and it's so nice to see evangelical Christian leader like David Parker being such a positive role model to Albertans. We need more leaders willing to share hate speech by openly ridiculing and fat-shaming the opposition. So again, this is the parody account of the Premier of Alberta. And so David Parker, who is a preacher, said, "This woman can't control how much food she puts in her mouth, but she wants us to trust her with running the Alberta government." Yeah, just a whole lot of bad there. Generally speaking, men aren't attacked the same way as women are when it comes to that sort of thing. There's a whole litany of reasons as to why somebody can be overweight. It sometimes has very little to do with how much they put food in their mouth, how much control they have. There are health conditions, there's societal conditions, there's access to the ability to have healthy food, to be able to have the exercise. There's disabilities preventing people from getting the exercise. So many reasons out there as to why a lot of people are overweight. And obesity is such a problem in North America right now. And to see men, primarily men, who a lot of them aren't exactly in the best of shape themselves, mock and ridicule a woman because she happens to be on the larger side, it's just disgusting. Who she is, her body, has nothing to do with the policies that she is going to run on, with how she is going to govern her for what she's running for. So apparently she's running for Alberta NDP leadership. There's been a lot of things in my life that I actually never did pursue because of my weight and how big I was and how I looked because of it. Because I was so afraid that that's all people would see when they saw me. And to people like him, then yeah, that was the case. Like, that's the thing. It wasn't just in my head. It was actually in practice out in the real world. It's like, again, nothing is ever good enough, because if we go back here, many of you don't understand that body positivity became a thing because back in the 2000s, you were considered disgustingly fat if you looked like this. I would love to look like that. So it doesn't matter to a lot of people. You can be all sorts of different sizes, but if you're not the size that the male who happens to be glancing at you prefers, then it's the wrong size. And a lot of this insecurity comes from men, because there's a lot of insecurity in men that they tend to project onto women. And a lot of that has to come from the patriarchal system that we live in, the white supremacist system of which we live in, that demand women present and look a certain way. And it forces women to conform into this very narrow stereotype as a way of control, as a way of valuing them, to constantly undermine their confidence because they don't look pretty enough, they're not thin enough, they don't have the right legs, they don't have the right arms. It's like, yeah, I might have these, but since I've been overweight most of my life, then I have never really been considered beautiful. The fact that a part of me wants that still is an indication of how ingrained in society it is. You see, it is just a way of controlling women and having them basically settle for something less. Men have to put less work into their personality, into their presentation, if they're constantly demeaning women and making them feel like they're not as worthy, they're not as important, They have no value unless they look a certain way, because there is no one way that will ever work. So then there's always ways to put women down. Like, so too often you'll just hear some random guy say, I prefer a woman with a delicate figure and skinny and stuff like that. And it's like, who gives a shit as to what this one random man prefers to look at? Because the next man down the road is going to prefer somebody with a bigger frame, and the next man's going to prefer this and that and the other thing. But it's so important that you conform to this one standard of Eurocentric beauty in order to fit into this. And then that way, as long as men have that power over women to give them that value of beauty and appearance, they're able to control them easier. And it's less stress on them. I've seen it a lot these days in media where men are worried that they actually now have to work on them, make themselves better in order to appeal to women, because women are becoming more independent, more relaxed about their appearance, more free to be who they want to be. And this frightens a lot of men, because before it used to be, well, they had to settle. You know, there's a clock over them. After a certain age, women are no longer of high value. So there's a clock over them. So they have to settle at a young age with whomever they happen to get. And if they're not pretty enough, then they have to settle for a man who might not treat them that well. Because after all, you know, they need to be in a relationship. And this is how the men get into that relationship. But now that women are less likely to be forced into those situations or coerced into those situations, a lot of those same men are finding themselves to be very lonely. This is where me and my empathy comes in. They need to be taught how to be better people then. You can't just mock them and tell them that they're horrible people. There's never really been a good effort into teaching men how to improve themselves. And a lot of men are scared at the idea of having to look inward because they're worried what they have to offer isn't going to be good enough. So too often, they're told they have to be the breadwinner, they have to be the protector, and all these sorts of things. And if they're not that, and they can't coerce and make women feel like they have no other options but them, then they're terrified. There's going to be no one for them. It would be better if they looked at this as a good thing, because by looking inward and improving themselves, that actually does lead to more confidence and feeling better about who they are, what they have to offer, by participating in activities and hobbies and stuff that bring them joy and fulfillment, of not focusing so much on getting into this relationship with this idealized image of what a woman should be. But the thing is that the same patriarchal system that likes to keep women down and control them through appearances also wants to keep the majority of men down and without confidence. They kind of feed into each other. They don't want confident men. They don't want confident women. They don't want confident people, because confident people don't rely on the system that prop them up, that keep them in power. Power all too often is treated like a finite resource, in that there's only so much out there and that you need it to succeed in life. When people are stripped away of that idea of why are they trying to seek that power, why are they trying to have power over one another, and they really just focus on themselves and what they want to do, a lot of the stress goes away and a lot more confidence comes in. And a lot of the material needs or wants that people have go away. And a lot of the material wants that people have is what drives the capitalist system. You know, you need to look fashionably beautiful at all these times with this makeup, with these outfits, to do this and that and the other thing all the time. Then you have to go to the gym, and then you need these diet products, and then you need to do this, and then you need to do that. And everything that just feeds into this capitalist system that was designed by men to stay in power for the very few at the top that had the wealth to begin with. So it's not exactly shocking when, again, the idea of what is and isn't woke is attached to body parts that people have no control over. Like, some people accuse the left of making it about body parts, especially when it comes to the term birthing people, where it's quite often the right wing that is constantly focused on body parts. What does a woman look like? how do they present, which then puts so many other women in danger if they don't conform to this very rigid standard. Trans women are often in danger because they don't conform to this very rigid standard. You know, if you go into a washroom and you look at drumness, or you have like a short haircut, or you're a tomboy, or you're all these sorts of stuff, then you're going to start being attacked by these same right-wing bigots because you don't look like the women they want you to look like. So it's the right wing that is constantly making it about body parts, about the reproductive systems, about, you know, does the woman have this look? Is she this skinny? Is she, you know, this young? And all that sort of stuff. They're the real ageist. But all of this is kind of accumulated into a really, really funny headline. Wokeness is no match for Sydney Sweeney's undeniable beauty. We've been pressured into pretending everyone is beautiful except for those who actually are. No, we're not. No. It's actually the opposite of people trying to convince others that what they see as beautiful in a person isn't, because it doesn't conform to their rigid standards. That a larger woman can't be beautiful if that's the way. But if somebody seems to think that she's beautiful, then that person is wrong. And that's usually where the right wing is coming from. Nobody has been like, oh no, we can't call a beautiful woman beautiful because that's too woke. Nobody has done that. That's not a problem. That's not a thing. But all too often, people are told you're not allowed to call certain types of women beautiful. That if you find them beautiful, then there's something wrong with you. And that is the Jordan Petersons of the world, the Ben Shapiros, the Matt Walshes, all of those right-wing bigots. That if you don't conform to their standard of beautiful, then you're not a real woman. And you should be shamed. And you shouldn't be accepted into society unless you're willing or able to conform to their idea of beautiful. And so the serfs had commented on this. Why is the right doing this? They've spent the last decade shaming women for how they dress, look, and now suddenly one woman looks are destroying wokeness. Wokeness is when sweatshirt, make it make sense. Now, part of this is because a lot of the men who are saying, oh, because she's a pretty white woman with big boobies, you know, this is the end to wokeness. But a lot of those same men often say, she's showing too much skin. It goes back to this. They need to cover up more. They're not wearing enough clothes. They shouldn't be exposing themselves like that. But here we have this time, oh, but now that she's a white woman with big boobies and we can celebrate her. That's ending wokeness. But those same men, but if she's not covered up, then that's also a problem. That's because they're constantly changing, because nothing will ever be good enough. You can never conform because what they want you to conform to is constantly changing. Because if you were to cover up, then you're being woke because you're not showing off your body. But if you're showing off your body, then you're being woke because you shouldn't be expressing that. And you should be covered up, and you're doing all of this. And then if you're body positivity, then you're bad. But you know, if you're too skinny, it's not good enough. If you're too fat, it's not good enough. There is never a fixed place that people should be. So then that way they're always able to shame, always able to say that the woman is in the wrong, because there is no one singular thing that they're conforming after, because it changes from person to person, and with that person, it changes depending on their mood. David Dole also tweeted this out. That's a real line from one of Canada's largest national newspapers. Yes, the National Post is a right-wing rag, often has anti-trans headlines. Shocking. Yeah, shocking that they would be anti-trans in a lot of their articles. They were also the same newspaper that was all about the Hamas terrorists, you know, being mad at the people who were doing the stand-up comedy show for the Friends of the IDF, the one that Julie Gold was partaking in. Yeah. And then the National Post said that those were Hamas supporters trying to shut down a comedy event. So the National Post is a right-wing magazine. But I read this article, and the idea that it's not done completely in irony, it blows my mind. This article is hilarious. And so much so, I have to share it with you guys. You know, it is Canadian after all. Will that fit? No, I have to make it one smaller. Yeah, it is Canadian, so it's my responsibility and duty as a Canadian to share with you Canadian news. Now, I'm not just going to read this in my regular voice because it's just too much fun. Some of you may know I used to have a different job. It didn't last long, but I did have a job as a phone sex worker at one point. So I do have a different voice, and this article is demanding I use this voice. So let's get ready for a fun ride, and I'm going to need to take a drink before this starts. So this article was published by Amy Ham. Are Sydney Sweeney's breasts double D harbingers of the death of woke? This is what the public is asking, at least those on social media, after the Euphoria actress garnered a particularly large audience as a host of Saturday Night Live last week. Sweeney is obviously a conventionally attractive young woman, and if you don't personally admire her beauty, we can certainly all agree that she's got a voluminous, I guess I misspelled voluptuous, appeal. Yes, so if you don't think that she is beautiful, then you still have to agree with us that we think that she's beautiful, and so you must still admire the fact that she is beautiful. So we don't care if you don't think that she's beautiful. You have to still agree that she has appeal. Sweeney knows this and runs with it playfully, owning her sex appeal with zero apologies, because those men on the right wing really love it when women own their sexuality and their sex appeal and use it, especially for things like, I don't know, OnlyFans. Right-wing men love when women go to OnlyFans to use their sex appeal to make money. And yes, I am being drastically sarcastic with that statement because they all whine and cry when women actually do use that sex appeal to make money. On SNL, she bulged. She bulged from her tops, self-deprecatingly suggesting that her breasts are her backup career, and now virally donned a Hooters uniform for a rather unsophisticated sketch dedicated to her overflowing cups. So you see, we already understand that because she has these voluptuous, big double Ds, that she's going to use that as a backup career, because it's not like she as a woman could do anything other than use her appearance to make money or to have a fulfilling life. Exactly how this led to a cultural cataclysm over beauty and wokeness can be summarized as follows. We've spent years being chastised for desiring or admiring beauty because beauty is rare and exclusionary, and to exclude is to hate. Or so we've been scolded to accept by today's diversity, equity, and inclusion fanatics. But you see, we seem to have missed the point there, because we're not being told we can't call these women beautiful. We're being told other people can think those who aren't conventionally beautiful can be beautiful in their eyes. And that's the inclusion part of it. We include people admiring beautiful people. We aren't supposed to admire Sweeney's beauty, but we've done it anyways. Yes, we've gone against the grain. Aren't we just the wild ones? Yes, we're so naughty. The times are changing, aren't they? Recall the words of the unrepentant, thought criminal Jordan Peterson on the plus-size model that graced the cover of Sports Illustrated 2 years back. "Sorry, not beautiful, and no amount of authoritarian tolerance is going to change that." To this day, the man is partly facing censure from his professional regulator over those words. Only it wasn't just over those words. It wasn't. It's just that actually had nothing to do with it. And the woman he was saying not beautiful, like we needed to know his opinion, which we didn't. And she is beautiful, just not his taste, but who cares? Because I seriously doubt she was interested in dating him. Seriously doubt that. And yeah, no, he Jordan Peterson is facing censure because of really horrid behavior online that discredits his career colleagues, his profession. Anyway, let's get back to this. We've all been pressured into pretending that we are bad people if we aren't attracted to every influencer wannabe who is unattractive by any reasonable standard of beauty. Considering how often the right wing has told other people that they're not, I don't know, that's not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. You like who you like. It is the adult equivalent of handing out prize ribbons to every kid on sports day, even to the kid that face planted into the mud puddle and couldn't finish a potato sack race. Everyone wins, and everyone must be regarded as beautiful, except, of course, the people who actually are. Beautiful people are beautiful. It's time that we recognize beautiful people as being beautiful. Beauty Empowerment Day. People want to look at beauty on TV and in art galleries, but we're being starved of it because attractiveness is deemed immoral. But what you seem to be missing is that lots of different people are considered attractive for lots of different things. So we're not actually being starved of it. We now are being offered a buffet of different types of attractiveness out there, which is really nice. I gotta say, a lot of the men that I've been attracted to aren't necessarily conventionally attractive, but their brains, hot. So hot. Those smart brains of theirs. As such, beauty is now political. For this we can thank the tyrannical, woke, and ironically minority vanguard that has been for years coerced our culture into pretending that unbeautiful things are beautiful. It's not that Sweeney herself is political. She's not. Nor does she need to be in order to make the point that so many apparently believe she has made. And while her breasts have caused a furor, I don't see this as the sudden death knell of wokeness. So when I talk about Sweeney causing a cultural cataclysm, I only mean it insofar as it is perceived to be one. It's not that the Sweeney conversation isn't welcome. It is. It's just that we have been heading in this direction for months. The signs have been all around us, perhaps just not so large and buoyant as this one. Consider another recent SNL guest. Comedian Dave Chappelle hosted the show in November 2022. This was 1 year after his Netflix special, The Closer, with its jokes about transgender issues caused by widespread hysteria amongst California's danger hair. danger hair referring to the toxic creatures, whether amphibians or hyper-woke Homo sapiens, that are brightly colored as means to signal their poisonous. So, the brightly colored hair, like the purple and the blue and the pink and all that sort of stuff on the Homo sapiens indicates that they are poisonous. Netflix employees staged a walkout and protested alongside members of the public over their embarrassing inability to handle jokes, says somebody on the right wing. If I really miss winter and I want to see a lot of snowflakes, all I have to do is go to a right-wing rally. So, inability to handle jokes made by a comedian in a comedy special. The New York Times called it one of the most visible signs of worker unrest in the history of the streaming service. Every lefty magazine released darn it, I Googled this one first. Obsequious, moralizing essays about Chappelle and what it means to punch down. And yet, SNL still wanted Dave because we've known for some time that most of us are not running on the same operating systems as the terminally offended cry bullies. The ratings don't lie. They didn't with Chappelle, and they haven't with Sweeney. If Chappelle had Sweeney's buxom bust, we could have easily been having the same cultural conversation more than a year ago. So you're saying if Chappelle had Sweeney's boobies, then we'd be talking about how he's no longer woke? What? Okay. And hey, if the Sweeney discourse isn't buttoned up to the neck quickly enough, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of an SNL staff walkout or sermonic diatribe by an upcoming host over the inherent harm and violence of Eurocentric beauty standards. There is a lot of harm of Eurocentric beauty standards that, have made a... Anyway, back to the article. Vanity Fair has already published a think piece. I use that term loosely on how SNL did her dirty by enabling the audience to merely observe her youth and beauty. Bastards! Maybe SNL will even haul Sweeney back on stage for a dressing down over her brazen display. Maybe Sweeney will resent feeling she's being used as a pawn in a raging cultural war that she never intended to take a side in, and end up announcing a Biden 2024 endorsement. Maybe Sweeney will understand that she has been completely objectified for the right wing's view, and that if she wants to be anything other than this object for oogling, then she will be woke again. Because if she wants a career, if she uses her brain, if any of that ever were to happen, then she would no longer be an anti-woke icon. No, she is only anti-woke so long as we can objectify her. But none of these possibilities will change the fact that we are all starting to envisage the death of woke. We are seeing it everywhere, including in the breasts of young, beautiful women. The author of this article is a woman. I think she's heterosexual. But if you want to start examining breasts for the death of woke, I got myself some woke titties right here. But let's just keep investigating the breasts of beautiful young women to see if those are anti-woke breasts. We want the anti-woke breasts. But that's besides the point, because with Sweeney, what it really comes down to is this: sex sells. That has never changed. Yes, she is an object for our viewing pleasure, and sex does sell. And that has never changed. But if you're going to be an OnlyFans girl, then you should be ashamed of yourself. If you use sex to actually sell and make money for yourself, then you should be so full of shame. Like, it is so shame. Like, you cannot do that. You must be a beautiful object for the right to desire, to be put up on a shelf and not do anything else. Don't think, well, okay, come down to make dinner from time to time. But other than that, you need to be an object in order to be anti-woke. Amy Ham is a freelance writer and healthcare professional. I would be concerned having a mammogram done by her at this point. Is she checking for cancer or is she checking for anti-woke? She is co-founder of the nonpartisan Canadian Women's Sex-Based Rights. Nonpartisan, you say? And all of this is because of this tweet saying wokeness is dead because we have a blonde woman with boobies. I'm not blonde, I'm not woman, but I have boobies. So does that make me a certain amount of woke? I don't know. Is wokeness dead? Because I remember there was a woman online who did this, but she wasn't wearing a top, but the screen was cut, so but you were just seeing the jiggle, and the right wing went insane. So let's see how insane we can get that right wing, huh? Check out these non-binary boobies. Also, not young. Did I just upset some right-wingers? You know, they're going to be like, oh no, I think I might be attracted to an older NB because she has big boobies. Oh no, oh no.